Good morning, everybody. Hello. Welcome to Banter with Beth. It is gorgeous here this morning in Ojai, and I'm really excited to bring on this amazing guest, friend of mine from New York. Helene Kvale is an incredible actress, educator, filmmaker. She has an incredible movie that's she's in pre-production on right now called The Loom that I'm really excited to share with all of you. So let me tell you a little bit about Helene. We'll bring her on here. Let's see here if I can remember how to bring people on. Yeah, okay. So we're going to bring Helene on. There we go. Excited. Fantastic. So let me tell you a little bit about Helene's film, The Loom. Oh, there you are. I'm
Hi.
looking at you. Hi.
Hello.
Good
How cool.
morning. Good
This is
morning.
my first Instagram live.
Oh, the baby's being born.
It could be a disaster.
No, it's going to be great. It's going to be great. Absolutely. Absolutely. I see a little sign here right now. It says, we're telling all of your followers that you've started live video. So hopefully some people will join us. Good morning, Michael. Michael just joined us. That's great. This is going to be a lot of fun. A lot of fun. So how is it? Are you in Connecticut right now or in New York City? Where are you?
I am in Connecticut. My dog is at my side. Hi,
Oh,
everybody. Deborah
hi.
Rowan. Hi, Deborah.
It's fun. And everyone can actually put questions in the chat and you can
Okay.
answer those questions and things like that.
How
How
cool.
have the last couple of weeks been for you?
Well, we're about to shoot in Berlin, so they're a little bit frantic but exciting. Things are moving very quickly. We're
Right.
having to adjust. We're just praying for good weather,
Of
but
course.
if not, we will make alternative arrangements. We'll talk to God and
Say, please cooperate with us. Well, let's go back. Let's go all the way back. I want to let people know really about who you are and what you've been doing in your life. You're a married mother of two beautiful boys, and you hail from Norway. Is that right?
that's right. I was born in Norway.
Right.
Hey, I see that Adam is there.
Nice. Nice. Good. Good.
Right. Yeah, I was born in Norway, and my dad is Norwegian. So yes, I have very strong Norwegian roots. And actually, this story kind of started in Norway as well. So that's been an interesting component that was sort of unexpected.
Sure, sure. And then you went from Norway to where? To England or
To the States.
you
So
came from Norway to the States? Okay.
yes, as a baby, my parents took my older sister and me to the States, where my dad started a job. He's Norwegian, as a Norwegian Siemens minister in San Francisco. And so we lived there until I was around 11. And then we moved to England, where he was the Norwegian Siemens minister in London.
Wow.
Um, so that was fun,
I'm
living in
sure.
London. Grew up there, and then I came back to the States in 2003 with Richard and our two sons.
And so when you were in London, is that where you began when did you begin your career as an actress? In your teens, in your early 20s, younger than that?
No, this was in London.
Right.
Um, yeah.
And right. And so when did what were you a child actor? Were you when did you become an actress?
So I first went to the University of the London School of Economics, and
Mm-hmm.
after I finished my degree, I did a postgraduate training at the drama studio, and then I became an actor. Although I had dabbled before,
Mm-hmm. Sure.
actually at Pomona College, and was my first big acting breakthrough.
Yeah.
I wouldn't exactly call it major. It was a college production, but anyway, and then subsequently, became a professional actor in London, and was very lucky to join the National Theatre quite
Yeah.
early on in my career. So that was a big break and exciting.
Oh, for sure. And you worked with some storied Shakespearean actors and so forth, and you had an amazing run for quite a long time, and then you came to the States.
That's right, where I started teaching at the University of Connecticut. So I started teaching acting to undergraduate students, and I started directing.
And do you think there was something in your life growing up that kind of brought you to all these, like what was your childhood like that made you want to become an actor and become a person who wanted to speak through the arts?
That's such a great question. You know, I mean, there's so much about the church that is theatrical.
Mm.
So growing up in the church, certainly that was influential. Also, my mother was very interested in all the musicals in London, and so she would take us every week to see something, and we'd sit in the gods. I was one of four daughters, and so she'd have to get 6 tickets, and we'd all sit at the back, and you know,
Sure.
peer down. But you know, I got to see a lot of great theatre, including some wonderful Ibsen plays in
Mm.
London with some fine people. So you know, got exposed to the National Theatre very young, and it was a dream then to be able to work there.
I mean, that's wonderful. And so, what do you think it was that allowed you to um, kind of shift the side of the boards you were working on? You were acting and performing for such a long time, and then you decided to switch it and become an educator and a director, and now a filmmaker. How did that shift happen?
I think it was partly because I did an anthropology degree, and so I was always interested in, you know, the study of mankind, and was never really interested in the fame side of performance. So, you know, I was intrigued by directing as I was an actor, and then part of performance, you know, working with something like the National Theatre Company or other companies, is you end up doing a lot of teaching
Mm-hmm.
anyway as part of the workshops that are associated with those productions. And so that gave me a good foundation to be able to teach in the future. And it was a nice transition. I mean, we came to the States because the University of Connecticut, and that, you know, offered a really wonderful opportunity for me to move into the university system, and that was
Sure.
exciting and fresh and new. And I brought a lot of you know, production professional experience as an actor to that role of being a teacher.
I mean, it's beautiful, you know, giving back to a community of students in a different generation so they can understand really the power of the arts in I think a way that you are truly using it with the film that you're making right now. I want everyone to learn about The Loom, which is a gorgeous, it's an incredible piece of work you've put together that I was able to see of a sizzle reel and things that are on your website. It's so moving. It's so interesting. Tell everybody what The Loom is about.
The Loom is about, it's a very personal story, first of all, and it's about a woman in Berlin who makes the impossible choice to shoot her 4 daughters, her mother, and herself, to save them from what she considers a fate worse than death, rape. And it's about the consequences of that action. And we look at that event through the eyes of her surviving husband, who was an artist, a stained glass maker. So after the war, this took place in 1945 Berlin, he came home to discover that his family were dead and were buried in the yard, and another family was living in his apartment. So as a result of sort of that experience for him, he had to notify my grandmother, who was his wife's cousin, Honey.
Mm-hmm.
And subsequently, there were a whole lot of letters that were written between them, 48 of which I found. And so I'm learning about that event, her choice, in inverted commas, to take the life of her children, her mother and herself, through the eyes of this artist and his letters and art.
Right, right. And how was it that you even came across these letters? It's extraordinary.
Yeah, well, it was funny because I was actually directing a play at the University of Connecticut. It was a Greek adaptation, a contemporary adaptation of the Philomela myth by Aaron Shields, called If We Were Birds. And the substance of this story, it revolved around these 2 sisters, one of whom was repeatedly raped by her brother-in-law. And to sort of cope well, in the process, he cuts out her tongue. It's a Greek tragedy, remember? So there's all kinds of gore, and the only way she can speak and tell the truth of what happened is by weaving a tapestry. And I just happened to be telling my mother this story, and she said, "Do you remember the loom?" And I had to stop for a second because I had to think, what, the loom? Yes, yes, I did remember the loom. And it was this tiny functioning loom about this high that was in our family, that was in our home growing up, that I'd never really paid attention to, you know, as I was growing up. And so I realized she was talking about that, but I didn't understand anything about it. So I asked her more, and she then described to me how on that loom were the names of these 4 little girls. And those 4 little girls were the girls who were shot by Honey's actions, the wife of the artist. And so a story that I've been told at age 11 about Honey and this, you know, tragedy, this family tragedy around shooting these 4 girls and her mom and herself, kind of came full circle because I realized it was connected to this loom. And I wasn't aware that Honey and Albert, the artist, were married. And Albert ended up coming to the States, which is why we had that loom. Anyway, it just began an inquiry. I had no idea where it would go, but I decided at that point I was going to dedicate this production, this play, to these 4 little girls, because what happened in 1945 resonated with this production that I was doing, and so that's what started it. And so I went to Norway to look at the loom, and then we started looking, and we found the letters, and we found photographs, and then I began to interview Albert's second family. So after his first family died, he eventually, under the suggestion of my grandmother, he realized he, you know, should move on, and he married again, and he took his new family to California, to Los Angeles, near where you are. And he started a new life as a stained glass maker in America, sponsored by my grandmother and her sisters. So that family is still alive. His second wife is 101, and she had 2 daughters of her own with him. So in total, he had 6 daughters, 4 from the first marriage, which was my grandmother's cousin, that wife, and then 2 from the second marriage, who then became part of our family, you know, even though we weren't related to the second wife, she was part of our family. So I started to interview them and hear about, to try to understand what had happened, and the context of what I understood later was a massive wave of suicides that was happening in Berlin at that time.
I mean, it's extraordinary to think about how much destruction continued even after the war, even after Germany fell, Berlin fell. There was liberation, we had American rescue efforts and so forth, but there was still an extraordinary amount of bloodshed and trauma that happened after the war. And so there aren't, you know, this story is unique in terms of it seems like the sheer volume of suicides that were created from one person's fear of what could potentially happen. It's mind-blowing. It really truly is. Can you talk a little bit about why you want to make the movie now?
Well, there's a whole side to you know, this story, which there's a number of reasons. One is that this story kind of has more power than just me. You know, this story kind of is begging to be told because it is the right time for it to be told. I kind of waited for a project to come to me, and it was this. It sounds very spiritual and like woo, but it really feels that way. And in the, you know, with the Me Too movement, the story becomes very resonant. So there's that. The other thing that's what's happening in Germany and across the world at the moment with the rise of anti-Semitism and, you know, the rise of neo-Nazis, etc. Not rise, it's already risen, unfortunately, and it's pretty established. There is some inquiry into, you know, what's happening again in Germany. And what I've uncovered with my partner Adam, who is here, hi Adam, is that we are delving into another side that we didn't really know that much about, which was Albert's relationship to the Jewish people in his family. And although he himself is not Jewish, he did have, you know, 40%, there was 40% of intermarriage going on in Berlin at that time. In other words, they were very integrated into society, right? And so it makes a mockery of this whole idea that they're different, you know, and that they should be singled out. But what we've come to learn is that Albert hid some of his relatives, and unfortunately, in 1943, they were captured at the hiding place, which was a cottage in the countryside on the River Spree. And he was actually conscripted a couple of days before that happened. So we're starting to kind of look at his relationship, not only in Germany, but also in Los Angeles, to the Jewish community. Because, you know, here was a man who had to prove that he wasn't a Nazi and then he wasn't a communist to be allowed to go to America. Once he came to America, he seemed to find a community in the Jewish community. He was very involved with Valley Beth Shalom in Encino, and actually that Rabbi Schulweis, who some of your watchers may know, he ended up doing the obituary and, you know, the memorial service for Albert Alwelt when he died in 1971. And he made a lot of menorahs and worked for, you know, did a lot of the artwork. He worked with Perli Pelzig. He worked with Eric Ray, these very well-known storied artists in the Los Angeles area, who kind of gave him his first break. So he was, you know, it's important now, to go back to your question, because of the Me Too movement, but also because of the rise of anti-Semitism and you know, fascism, unfortunately.
Absolutely. I mean, I think so many people, it's easy to just categorize the Holocaust as a Jewish story, and it's not just a Jewish story. It touches so many different kinds of religions and races, and this was only one genocide amongst many genocides over centuries and centuries. But there's something unique about the Holocaust, I believe, that makes it particularly sinister, coming from such intellectual, brilliant minds of how to do something so systematically. And you know, it's I think very meaningful for us to be even having this conversation today on the anniversary of Kristallnacht, you know, the pogroms that took place in 1938, yesterday and today. Or 1948, 1938, yes, 1938. It makes us really wonder what is going on right now, that these historical events seem to want to have a new cycle of rebirth. And why? What has brought us to this point? Why do people want fascism to rise again? Or, as you have said, and I agree, it's not really on the rise anymore. It's here, and we need to combat it and rail against it and point it out when it's seen. Call a spade, but it's extraordinary that this is happening in our lifetime, because I certainly grew up with rose-colored glasses and didn't think it could happen again.
Yeah, it's terrifying. And there's a lot of denial, unfortunately, and a lot of lies. And I'm constantly reminded how close we are to the conditions that led to, you know, Hitler's rise.
Yes, absolutely. You know, I think, at least for my film, Would You Hide Me, one of the reasons that I'm making it, and I'm guessing that this is partly why you're making The Loom as well, but I'll let you answer for yourself. But I feel that it's my attempt at continuing the conversation of activism through the arts, that because especially now with all the different resources of media that we have, it used to be newspaper, radio, and television, right? And now we've just expanded to so much more, and we're just oversaturated with content all the time. And so how do we break through the cycle to have a piece of content actually reach somebody? And of course we all want to get out and vote and go and march and do all these things, but there also comes a burnout phase for a lot of people where that's not where most of the messaging is taking place, because it's kind of in an echo chamber. So what are ways that we can actually continue this conversation with people outside of our bubble who we know are concerned? And it seems to me as though creating a piece of art and then eventually getting it out there is one way to continue having the conversation. You guys are doing something really unusual in that you are having looming and weaving workshops. Yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah, let's talk about that. How did that come to be?
Well, it's just, there's so much serendipity around this project. It's kind of amazing. And actually, I was in conversation through our German producer with a man called Jürgen Schroeder, who is writing a book about his dad, who's a stained glass maker who worked for the sister company that Albert Alwelt worked for. Mm-hmm. And so I was in conversation with him and just happened to learn that his wife is a systemic therapist and weaver. Her name is Sylvia Schroeder. And she lived they both had a place in Sausalito, California, which is not far from where I grew up in San Anselmo, California. And so that was like, wow, how interesting. She's a weaver and she's a therapist. And so suddenly my focus shifted from Jürgen to Sylvia. I was like, I want to talk to your wife. And actually, it's been an amazing relationship that has grown from that, because she uses weaving to help people deal and heal, hopefully, a little bit through their traumas. And she is so skilled at what she does that I asked her to come and do a workshop with Albert's fifth and sixth daughters, who are now in their 65 and 72.
Wow.
To work through some of the issues that they had. I mean, they actually weren't aware that she was a therapist when she came. They just thought they were doing a loom workshop and weaving workshop, because they are very crafty themselves, like their father. And as it happened, it was a really powerful, transformative experience for them. Mm-hmm. So then I asked Sylvia if she would continue to work with us in our outreach. And we went on and we've been doing some workshops with the Free Center, which is our fiscal sponsor. And the Free Center is an organization that started in Connecticut that basically offers underrepresented communities resources and access to workshops and loads of other things. And everything is free. So we did some workshops there with Sylvia. And that was, again, very powerful, completely different context, nothing to do with 1945 Berlin, or, but trauma is trauma, and we're all experiencing a lot of it these days. And right. The act of artistic endeavor and working through weaving illustrates what the Philomela myth illustrated, was that through weaving, she was able to process the trauma that she experienced, and it ended up transforming her, in this case, in a revenge tragedy with, all kinds of consequences. But, art has the power to transform, and that is the story. And I think that's why you and I we engage in activism through art.
Right. Absolutely. You've written in the past as a screenwriter, and you've actually had some of your words materialize into film, right? And how is this process different for you? Documentary is so different from writing a feature film.
Wow. I mean, you know, you don't really know what you have until you're there shooting.
Yeah.
But then there's this paradox where you have to know everything before you shoot.
Yep.
You have to know what you're looking for. So, you know, it's really exciting, and it uses so many different skill sets. And, you know, this is my first film, so I am a novice, just such a steep learning curve. But there are many different sides to documentary and many different skills. I think as artists, we can forget how much we do know about different types of things, you know, and one thing is, well, storytelling is an obvious one. Connecting with characters in a way that might be different to how other people look at characters. You know, connecting, looking for stories around us, in the world around us, and how to, you know, bring them to fruition. Having the sensitivity, patience, the doggedness, the passion, in spite of all obstacles, to make something work and to make it work.
Right.
It's like that determination that actors have in very, very difficult circumstances where they're not paid or there might not be work.
Right.
They're still working because they love it, because they have
Right.
to, you know. And you need all that. You need that drive in documentary because it takes a long time.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's not really funded very well. It's not funded well.
Well, so let's go back to that. I want everyone to know how they can help support you. You mentioned your fiscal sponsor before, but if people just go to your website, are there links to donate?
There are. They can go to theloomfilm.com. We appreciate everything. There is a donate page. It's very easy to donate, and we're excited to say that 100% of the donations come to the Loom. So the Free Center, because it's free, doesn't take a cut.
Wow.
And also, you know, one of our producers is the executive director of the Free Center and founder of it. So very connected to the story and the way we're telling the story, and it's had a huge influence on how we
I mean, the way that you're utilizing the Loom itself, there's a dollhouse that Albert made for his daughters, and how you're using the dollhouse to give us a point of entry into the story. It's so beautifully done. The illustrations that you've already begun, especially with your family tree. And I mean, there's so much that you've already brought to the table, and you're in pre-production. Like, you still haven't even begun your official production phase. So you leave for Berlin how soon?
On the 16th of November.
Oh,
yeah.
And how long will you be shooting?
We'll be there until December 2nd. This will be one of, you know, the first trip that we're making. We have a wonderful team there. There are a lot of women involved in this project, and our cinematographer Jana Lemmerer is joining us, and she has a very narrative. She comes from a narrative background, so it's going to be super filmic, and we're really excited about the Lomo lenses we're going to have, which are vintage lenses, and it's going to bring a lot of beauty to what is an austere time of year in Berlin.
Definitely, for sure. And you just had a big win happen. James Ivory has come on as executive producer. That's huge. How exciting is that?
Oh, just so thrilled, beyond excited. Such a fan and so influenced by his work. You know, I was at university when his first, you know, big blockbusters came out, and, you know, he's such a nice guy and is very interested in our project. And, you know, I feel like it's a very good fit, you know, because he is interested in those historical stories and with a point of view which is similar to our point of view. So we're really thrilled.
Has anything surprised you so far in what you've been trying to unearth? And I mean, you go into doc because you're looking for discoveries, right? That's the whole point of it. But has anything just really taken you back, like, wait a minute, I wasn't expecting that one at all?
Um, you know, this is going to sound strange because making documentaries are really hard, but
Yeah.
I have to say that it's easier than directing live theater. And
Okay,
I never
talk about
expected
that.
that.
That's amazing. That's just amazing.
Yeah, there's something about live theater that, as a director, you're obviously so open to, the possibilities are so huge, that to be able to kind of create something that is going to withstand a long run, and with
Mhm.
making sure that the energy and the essence of the story continues to be told. Um,
Mm.
it's with film, you can stop and start, you can retry, you can change your mind, not once it's finally out, but you can try things in different ways, whereas with live theater, of course, it's just like, well, it's a gift, every whatever comes that day is what it is. And
Right,
um,
right,
yeah,
right.
I have a lot of respect for actors, so all those actors out there, I see there are a few. Hi Di, hi Nikolai, Emma.
That's so nice. I'm so glad
Yeah.
everybody's chiming in. This is great. If you guys haven't been to Helene's website, it's theloomfilm.com, right?
Yes.
And so everyone, please go there. There are some wonderful, it's a beautiful website that I think represents so accurately what it is that you're trying to do. I don't know if the sizzle reel is up on there yet or not, but
Yet. No.
everything else just offers so much about the story, and particularly this very unusual artistic portal that I think through which you're telling it is just, it's just captivating. So I'm excited for other people to see all the different clips and read more of the stories that you have on there. Even the way that you're describing how you want to tell the story is artful in and of itself. So,
Thank you. Thank you. It's an insight to what it's like to begin writing something that you have no idea if all this will transpire, but it's
right.
actually taking place.
It's
What we
happening.
thought might happen is happening.
It's happening. It's absolutely happening. I remember right before COVID hit all of us and we all kind of got locked in, you and I were in a cafe in New York, and you had just started talking about this idea. And I thought, well, that's fascinating. How is this going to work and how are you going to do it? And here you are, you're doing it. So
Yeah.
brava.
And I have to thank you, Beth, for being so encouraging, and because that really was such early days when just thinking maybe it could be a documentary, and a few people had said you must video what you're exploring, video yourself, and
Yeah.
so your encouragement was invaluable.
Well, it's certainly my pleasure. It takes one to know one, right? Like, you've got this idea, you're not going to be able to sleep until you actually do something about it. And so I really wanted to just protect your sleep and make sure that Richard was okay with you getting enough sleep. I'm so excited for you. I can't wait to hear what you find when you go to Berlin in a couple weeks. And I really look forward to talking with you afterwards to just get a download on like, how was the experience? How was the shoot? Incredible, incredible film made by a woman, supported with an incredible team of female filmmakers, and stories about women who truly survived the Battle of Berlin, and how they easily could be forgotten, but you're not letting them get forgotten. You're not letting them get forgotten, if that's even a sentence. You are really paying homage to some incredible lives that never should have been lost.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Really appreciate that.
Absolutely. Well, you guys, thank you for tuning in. Helene, thank you for joining me this morning.
Thank you.
We're going to be posting this on our Instagram channel, and we post it over at Beth Lane Film on YouTube later on this afternoon, and then it's always on our website as well. So please feel free to forward it, share it, go to Helene's website, make donations so she can get through this phase of filming. Filmmaker to filmmaker, I know how hard it is to raise funds. So
Every little bit counts. It all helps, you guys. Help her
Oh my
out.
God.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
25 cents. We'll take it. Thank you.
That's right. That's right. Thanks, everybody. We'll see you next Wednesday. Oh, and as we just kind of close out today, you know, let's just take like a second here to acknowledge and honor Kristallnacht and all that happened back in 1938 today. There are so many programs on the United States Holocaust Memorial Museum's website, Holocaust Museum LA's website, Birmingham, Seattle, Chicago, Holocaust museums all over the country and all over the world that are have excellent programming to acknowledge the atrocity that happened back in 1938. So a moment for that. Thanks, everybody. Thanks, Helene. And we'll see you guys next Wednesday. Bye.